Okay, so we're going to start making the installation manual sheet. Before you get to this point, you should have already reviewed the condition with the team. You should have all the files you need as well as the steps already typed up for you. So that's where I'm at this stage. So let's get started. So I have a template open. This is going to be the new format. And I have the page number already assigned because that's what was given to me. And then I have the unit drawing that I got from the fab team. So in this particular case, we're going to be doing this intersection here, which is a captured jam to an Invisa horizontal. So to start, you're just going to do a simple Control-C, copy this model, these 3D objects, to your clipboard. Okay, so we don't care about the rest of it in this particular case. We're focusing on one intersection. So you need to know which intersection it is that you need. And then we're going to go back to your template here. And you're going to make sure your UCS is in the same orientation as the model here. So you can see the X and the Y are laying down flat. So right now in my 3D space, it's not the same. So I'm going to just do a VPP, which changes my UCS to the plan view. And then VPI changes back to this isometric view. And so now you can see my X and the Y coordinates are exactly the same. So then when I do a Control-V, it should be laying down flat in the same orientation as the model that I picked up. So for now, to get started, I'm just going to place it somewhere near space here and just click to place it. So you can see in the template, there's some notes here about start modeling here. So that's why I placed it over here. We want the fully assembled view to start with. That's the easiest way to model these. And then we're going to slowly dissect it down to the lower viewports to the left. Okay, so since I just placed this randomly, we need to get this actually visible in the viewport, and we're going to have to do some cleanup. So we're going to move and grab these objects again, and I'm working in this 3D view. You can work in the 2D view, whichever way is easiest for you. And I'm just going to use the bottom corner-ish of this mullion, and I'm going to place it using the bottom corner of my viewport. And just so I get a better spatial relation, that now I know the back of the vert is flush with the 0, 0 plane. And now with my ortho on, I can move previous and just move it, better to get it, the intersection into that viewport. And just moving previous, and then see how you can see better in this view, how I'm trying to get it into my template viewport here. Okay, again, and I'm trying to just focus on this intersection. Okay, so that's kind of the basic to start with, just getting the model in the right position and in the right spot. So now you can see, though, this model has a lot of extra components as well as parts and pieces sticking outside of the viewport. So that's not what we want. For the installation manual, we usually keep the parts at a 12-inch or 1 foot length, just to keep it small and concise. So we're going to have to trim these down. So you can use whatever 3D AutoCAD skills and tools that you are aware of. I personally just do a lot of subtracting, and I make a bunch of dummy, so to speak, cut materials, rectangles to cut each part. The thing to remember is you need to cut each part individually, otherwise AutoCAD will combine them together and join them as if they were one part, which is not what you want. So let me just show you one instance of how I would do this, and then I'll pause and finish trimming up the rest off camera. So I'm going to make a rectangle, and I'm going to use the corner of my mullion here, and I'm just going to exaggerate and make it large, and I'm going to extrude it down just to make it a big piece. So I know that that's bigger than my mullion, which is what I want. I'm going to move it, and I'm going to move it up to, again, getting it close to the bottom of that horizontal there. Just, again, I'm eyeballing it because it's not super critical to be that precise in this moment. And then I'm just going to move it down by 12 inches. So that way I know that once I cut this vertical member, what's going to be left is about 12 inches. And say that even looks large, I might go 6 inches. So that it's a total of 12, top and bottom. That looks better to me. And then I'm just going to now modify, I'm just moving this up. And you see now this if I wanted to cut this jam, my cutting piece is too small. It's not going to cut the entire length. So your cutting piece has to cover or cut the entire portion that you want to chop off when you're doing a subtraction, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So I just drew it as a guide. So now I'm just going to, you can use press pull, and you see I hovered over this surface, and now I can just basically extrude that thing larger. So now the whole portion of the jam that I want to cut is captured, and you can see how a little bit of that yellow is showing through. So I'm just going to move this over to make sure it's fully captured by that mass, otherwise it won't cut. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm just going to hit SU for subtract, select the object you want to cut, which is the jam. See, these are all individual parts, but this is okay to select as one because this is one captured mullion. We want it to be one piece. Enter, and then subtract that. Okay, so you can see what it did. It literally chopped off everything that was covered by that mass. And now these are all one piece, whereas you saw initially they were all separate pieces. If I wanted to keep them as separate pieces, I would have had to do that subtraction multiple times and select each piece individually. But in this case, I want it to keep it as one piece. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat that and make larger masses to cut the glass, cut the top of the vert, and then cut the horizontal, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have all the model trimmed. I had to trim the glass individually from the horizontal, so that was 3 separate cuts. But now you can see what I have left, and then all these taglines we can delete. That was for the fab team. And then you can see in the 2D view I'm slightly out of the border, so I'm just going to again I'll just grab it all here and just move it up. Just make sure my ortho is on. Okay, so now I'm almost done with the fully assembled view. All that's missing is the gaskets and the sealant. So to do that, you need to have the 2D details in CAD provided for you. In this case, this was our practice. We were given CAD exports, which will not work for this process. So you need the actual CAD files, and in this case, these are standard details. So I'm going to grab the standard details from the library because we need to grab the gaskets from the detail and extrude those in 3D, and we can't do that with exported CAD details. Okay, so also you can also just see what gaskets they are and then insert them from the CAD library and then extrude them that way. But we need the details, so we're going to grab them from the library and place those in our template as well. Okay, so I placed the 2D details into their corresponding spots, and then I deleted all of the dimensions, notes, and tags since we don't need them for the manual. So now we're going to grab the gaskets and extrude them, and I'm going to just demonstrate one and then do the rest off camera. So what we're going to do is do a Control-C and copy the shape. It's your choice if you want to include the hollows of the gasket. That's not super critical, but I'm going to grab both of these. And remember, I'm in a plan view. So now when I go here, if I do a Control-V, you see those gaskets are not in the right spot or the orientation because my UCS is not correct. So you have to rotate your UCS to the right plane. And this is where it gets a little tricky because we're working from a 2D to a 3D that's laying down, which is not always the easiest. So I just flipped my UCS using 3-point. And now if I do Control-V, I'm still off, I'm backwards. So what I'm going to do though, rather than fiddle more with my UCS, which is more critical or difficult for me, I'm just going to place it and then just do a mirror and use this corner. And there we go. So now I have them in the correct orientation, in the right location. The front gasket is the wedge, and then this is the back gasket. And then we're just going to do EXT for extrude. And I'm going to select all of them and do them all at once. And because I know the length of my mullion is a nice even number, I'm going to extrude it 12 inches. Okay, now it went this way just because that's my UCS. I should have done -12. It's okay. I'm just going to move them 12. Okay, so it's nice and neat. And here you can see I'm off a little bit. Again, not a good demo, sorry about that. I'm short by about 2 inches, so what I can do is either re-extrude them 14 or press pull and make them longer. So I'll do that off camera. Let me just show you how to get those hollows in there. Again, do a subtract, here, and then select the inner, and then it'll remove the hollow. So again, SU subtract. There we go. And then these need to be placed on the correct layer. So I do a PR for properties. It automatically defaults to your current layer. So these need to be on gasket layer. And then 3D materials, we change the gaskets to dark gray so they appear black. Okay, so that's how you would place the gaskets. So you're going to have to do that for the horizontals and verticals that you have. And again, make sure you extrude them to the right length, and I'll fix that. When you do a horizontal, you'll have to rotate your UCS again as well to get the gaskets in the correct location. So let me finish that up and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have the horizontal gaskets in there now, and I have my UCS switched to be have the X and Y along the horizontal. So let me just show you how we would add the sealant as well. We just show it as a rectangle, just again, it's for representational purposes. So we're just going to make a polyline, and I'm going to use the glass as my guide and just click on the four corners. And then I'm just going to extrude this as well, -12. And then just change this as well to sealant layer. And then again, also dark gray material. Okay, so that way it'll appear solid black when we plot. So now you may be, you are 95% done with your model. So the only other thing now, though, you may be wondering is the intersection of those gaskets. If you look here in 2D, you can sort of see the gray lines. Right now they're just overlapping each other and hitting, and the vertical gasket is running through, which is not correct. So if you don't know what the correct installation or fabrication of those gaskets are, this would be a good time to stop and ask the team before you move any further, because the whole point of these manuals is to show what we really do for installation, and we cannot have the model showing something incorrect like this. So if you're unsure or nobody told you what the logic is, stop right here and ask a question and get it correct, and then update your model accordingly. You could also refer to other sheets that are similar on the installation manual to also see if there's some logic there that you may be able to copy. But again, it's best to confirm with the team before you're moving forward. That information should be provided to you, hopefully, before you get this far, but it could have been overlooked. So when you get to this point, don't leave things hitting each other. Make sure you fully understand the logic before you move on. So I'm going to update my model accordingly to fix that intersection of the gaskets. And then in the next video, I'll show you how to make the dissected views and viewports in the paper space.